Yo, better on the mic, it's the Krewe NFC, the Roundtable where the real heads be. Fucking NFL, the game we adore. From the touchdowns to the legends and so much more. That fucking guy, he's got the stats on lock. Dropping knowledge on the field, watching every block. Back and bleeding green, cheering loud and proud. In the sea of cheese, as he's standing out the crowd. I can't hear with the looks and the smarts. Breaking down the plays, and he does it with heart. Then the stout, solid like the line. His takes are heavy, his vision's divine. We break the game down from every big play to every new crown. Offense, defense, we cover it all. From the springtime draft to the winner's last call. Not just a podcast, it's a fan's lifeline. Connecting every moment from the vines to the shine.
Good morning, good morning. Krewe NFC Roundtable, Week 12. Something special this week. I mean, how great was that to sit down on Thursday night and watch football being played in the snow? I get it, it's not NFC related, but there's just something great about having snow in football. Am I wrong?
That was like snow globe football, man.
It was awesome. I mean,
You're always wrong. You're always wrong, Mike.
Snow globe football, like Guardians of the Galaxy with a black light.
So up north, we don't have any snow. In Green Bay, I don't think it's snowing either. I mean, what's it looking like up in the north, gentlemen?
I can tell you that in Florida, it is freezing. It's like going to be it's going to be about 72 degree. So, but overnight it was in the 50s.
How terrible is it that you're our NFC North Bears expert and you're down there in the heat? Yeah, it's terrible. I think you should just move up here for the show.
You're terrible. So now that's when you're like, whatever the case might be, you're talking all kinds of crazy. Maybe your CTE is kicking or something like that, because there's no way I'm going to that cold, that snow, the ice, the traffic, the people.
Yeah.
You guys? Oh, God.
Well,
so if you want, we can start off real quick. Oh, I'm sorry, what were you saying?
No, I was choking for some reason. It's like I was lining up for a game-winning field goal, and then I protested that it was blocked. What kind? We're not even going to talk about last week's Bears misstep.
That's weird. That's exactly what happened to the Bears. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the Bears' victory real quick over Minnesota today. Exactly. So, really, what's end up you could do one thing. The Bears could be up by 30 with 2 seconds left, and for some reason, Minnesota will kick a 31-yard field goal, a 31-point field goal. That's just how it is these days. Now, the interesting thing about it is the Bears actually only have 2 players around. You have Ryan Bates, offensive line. He's got a concussion. Elijah Hicks, defensive back. Hicks, of course, is going to be one of your ouch spots because he's been fairly consistent for the most part, in your secondary. So, if by chance Minnesota throws the ball, which everybody knows they hate throwing the ball, that could end up being kind of a longer day for the Bears defense, and in particular the secondary. Defensive line should be fairly stout, pun intended. But if by chance Minnesota does have the opportunity to get their running game together along with their passing game, it could end up being it could be interesting. So, but because you only have Josh Oliver, tight end, he's the only one that's going to be out for Minnesota, which is also going to be kind of But if you want to actually go into the hopefully near future, what you actually have here is the possibility that Matt Eberflus will not survive the season. I think last week's game and one of the bigger knocks against him is the fact that game management, game time management, play call management, things of that nature in certain situations. And so, if by chance he does in fact lose his job, which everybody kind of thinks he probably will, there are several potentials for the next head coach. So you have anywhere from Thomas Brown, of course, his name has been floated for quite some time, offensive coordinator with the Detroit Lions, and Detroit's been able to do a thing or two, so that's going to be a strong possibility. He had interest.
Go
ahead, I'll wait.
Sorry.
he had interest in the possibility, but that might not necessarily be the case these days. You've got what? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Are you really hoping Eberflus gets canned? I mean, aren't you just continuing the Bears' very own version of the Dallas Cowboys circle of suck? I mean,
No.
Hire coach, hire coach, draft QB, fire the coach, keep the QB. Hire a coach, trade the QB, draft the QB, fire the coach. It's the same cycle. I mean, when does it end?
Yeah. We all seen that video. Yes. No reason to beat a dead horse. Anyway, but what ends up happening in this case, it's going to be a necessity, especially considering that some of the players have, he very simply, he lost the locker room. If you have one or two guys that actually have, with any influence, you lose the locker room, especially as a head coach, you know how well that's going to end up playing out. And
they're in the games, though. You're in the same situation that Tampa Bay is in, right? Your head coach still has you in the games. Do you really think that the players have? Do you really think the players have given up on Eberflus already? Do you think that's happening? Yeah,
I kind of do, only because you have a couple of things going on. Now, first off, you have some of your, like DJ Moore, for example, who would like the ball pretty much every play. I understand that. That's pretty much how wide receivers are, and that's to his positive and a negative way. Because then, of course, hey, you know what? We have to do a running play to open up your pass. Fine. With the idea of Caleb Williams not having the offense, or at least, the grasp of the offense that you would think or hope, maybe he does. Maybe it's just offensive line's not giving enough time. Maybe it's the other receivers not actually coming back to the ball, fighting for possession, that kind of thing. And what about your first downs? How are you going to continue to keep going if you don't ever get a first down? But now you can't run the ball, you can't throw the ball.
Well, last week you guys did well getting the ball out of Caleb Williams' hands quickly. He was actually very mobile, moving out of the pocket well. He does tend to take his time with his reads, but once they made the decision to get him going and out of the pocket, when he had like 1-2 read, he was out. He never made that full progression across the field. And I think that's maybe what you have to do to simplify this offense for him, to keep him getting the ball out of his hand quickly. You don't have the offensive line to hold the ball that long.
And that very, very simply could be the offensive coordinator, who, especially this particular offensive coordinator, who would know what your quarterback can do. So he's good at this. He's good at this. He's not good at this. He's not good at this. So if you can actually tailor your offense towards that play set it for years, then they have a better opportunity to have at least the opportunity for success, really. But you also have, names have been floated out. Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator Joe Brady has been also a potential. Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Liam Cohen. I don't know about that one, because you know how Tampa Bay is. They're horrible.
One of the best offenses in the league right now. But it's okay. We can keep playing this.
The Philadelphia Eagles, Kellen Moore. Their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. Arizona Cardinals, Drew Petzing. Minnesota Vikings defensive coordinator Brian Flores. Now, the interesting part about that is you're still looking at a defensive coach as opposed to an offensive-minded coach, and I personally would say go with an offensive-minded coach, but I guess that's just me. All told, with the Bears, of course, and where's the game going to be? Okay, all right. Anyway, so I still say that the Bears are probably going to pull it out by at least 2, maybe 2.5 touchdowns.
That'd be great, because I need the Vikings and the Packers to keep losing these ball games, so we can stack some L's for these teams. It helps the Bucs playoff chances in the long run. Speaking of Green Bay losing, San Francisco Green Bay is another game on the NFC North docket today, Brian. How does Green Bay lose today?
If they continue to sputter offensively, and that's been the big problem. I mean, when you're talking about a team that's ranking 22nd on third down conversion percentage and 27th in red zone percentage, it's not good. And I mean, they only were able to convert 1 third down in the red zone against the Bears and constantly got turned away from scoring. It was not a good showing. I mean, to be brutally honest, we were lucky to come out with a victory against the Bears. I'm just going to put that hands down.
Yeah, last week you had the Mike Stout on prom night offense. You got in the red zone and couldn't score.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean,
it has other types of connotations.
but
but
seriously, go ahead, Brian.
Here's the thing. This is a Niners team that's desperate for a victory, especially after losing to Seattle last week. They really need a victory, but the news just keeps getting worse for them. Injury. I mean, they are going to be without their best defensive end, Nick Bosa, their best defensive tackle, Javon Hargrave. They're out without Dre Greenlaw, their best cornerback, Shavarius Ward, best safety, Hufanga. I mean, that's 5 key players on their defense. That is, I mean, just Bosa alone's a game wrecker. If he's out, Packers could do so many things. I look for the offense to get back on track against them, but then here's and on the other side of the ball, Brock Purdy's gone. They're starting a quarterback that's only made 9 starts in the NFL and hasn't started a game since 2021.
Yeah.
So,
what do you feel is the bigger injury on the San Francisco 49ers side of the ball? You got Bosa, who's essentially your speed rush, edge presence for that defense. Then you got Brock Purdy, who's basically stepped in and hasn't relinquished the job to anybody as the quarterback of that offense. Which is more detrimental to San Francisco in this situation?
In my opinion, I mean, you look at previous seasons where either Purdy got hurt or even when Garoppolo was the quarterback and stuff like that. The system works, whatever Shanahan does. And it's like any quarterback that Shanahan puts in there, they can run the offense efficiently. And I think that's obviously to complement, guys like Trent Williams on the offensive line or Kittle as the tight end being the security blanket. You've got, the fragile one at running back. It's like their system works whoever they throw in the quarterback. I think, especially with this game, it's the defense that's the most important. And to lose Bosa, who is your key person, and obviously other personnel on that defense who was their best players at their position, I think that's the most important. That's San Francisco's most important thing for this game is their defense, and they're depleted.
So who is your player to watch on Green Bay's offensive side of the ball then? Since you feel the defense is going to struggle or be more of an impact, not really struggle, but be more an impact on the game for San Francisco, who's your player to watch on offense?
You know what? It's a great question because I truly feel that like Josh Jacobs, for example, I think he needs to get back on track and have a good running game. And the Packers always seem to do well when he's rushing for over 100 yards, catching some balls down the field. Christian Watson kind of had a little bit of a come out party last week, and it's good to see him back. If he can get going, then they've got the double receiver, thing going on with Dobbs, Watson, and then throw in the tight end. I mean, the tight end's been playing really good lately. I just think if the Packers need to get right offensively, and this is the week to do it. I mean, they can take advantage of a hurt defense and try to get back on track to what they were doing at the end of last year. Otherwise, if they continue to play like this, I mean, they're not going to. I don't think they'll catch up to Detroit. I think they'll hang around with Minnesota, but I mean, they're just going to be one of those wild card teams that will probably have to go on the road and try and win out. And I don't see that happening with this team unless things get better offensively.
Right on. So with San Francisco switching quarterbacks this week, or due to injury, not switching quarterbacks, but due to injury, playing a backup quarterback, how is the Green Bay Packer ground defense? I mean, how are they against the run? Because you're going to see a lot of Christian McCaffrey today.
That's still, in a way, the weakest part of their defense. However, it has gotten a little better But in my opinion, I think you could still run all over the Packers. I think their takeaways for the Packers have been on interceptions. Their secondary is really good. In terms of the defensive line and having a true run stopper, they just haven't done it. And I mean, that's always been historically it's been a problem under LaFleur. So that will be, I think, the one player, if the Packers are going to want to try to stop, it's going to be him, and they have to, and make them have a lot of third down and longs and make the quarterback have to make a play. Obviously, Kittle's going to be key for him today as well, just because he's healthy, he's ready to go, he's their security blanket. I think if Brandon Allen is to get in trouble, he will find Kittle. This could be a big game for Kittle, to be perfectly honest. You might see a big game out of him if the inevitable happens where they get a little bit of a run game going, and next thing you know, you're finding him. He could be a beast, and historically he actually has played the Packers. He's really done well against the Packers statistically.
Copy that. So we've covered the three teams that are looking up at the Detroit Lions, but Detroit heads into Indy today. I mean, how does Indy even stand a chance stopping this high potent offense in Detroit?
So, if anything, you actually have a couple of things going on. You got Indianapolis, as long as they can control the ball, time of possession is going to be absolutely paramount for them, because if you don't, apparently the offensive juggernaut, which is Detroit, is going to run 52 points on you, which is insane for Detroit. But that's just the way that team is these days. And the problem with Indianapolis, unfortunately, is their defensive line, which has been good but porous. And the problem is, what is one of the things that Detroit likes to do?
Yeah,
the ball.
Control the ball, run the ball.
And so, if you have that opportunity to be able to run the ball, Amon St. Brown is just going to tear you up, and when you open up that pass. And that's actually, I don't necessarily see Indianapolis having a great chance, but I mean, they certainly could at any given Sunday.
Yeah, it's as fans of teams looking up at the Lions right now, you really got to hope and just hope they miss a step somewhere along the lines. You need them to trip up a little bit so you can gain ground on. I mean, they're best team in the NFL right now. Am I wrong? I mean, who stops the Lions in the NFC?
There's not, in my opinion. Well, let me put it this way. The way Philadelphia has actually been playing the last few weeks, they're kind of the ones that are on the rise. I think they're the team that could possibly give the Lions fits. But other than that, I don't see a team. I really don't. They're steamrolling people. It's unreal.
The Lions cornerback, Arnold, he's actually out for the game.
Right on.
So, that could help Indianapolis, with their juggernaut of an offense.
You gotta hope. You gotta hope that Richardson figures it out in Indy. You don't want to have to start over again and rebuild again with a new quarterback, but he just doesn't seem to be catching on, so to speak, to the NFL game. He's often injured, prone to turnovers. He's not exactly what you would call – I hate people that think that's a bad term, but a game manager. He doesn't do well managing what he can take and what he can do with the ball offensively for the Indianapolis Colts. And Detroit's defense is no slouch. I mean, they are a complimentary football team, and they're built to win, and they're tough to beat anywhere, but especially at home. Or, I mean, especially in the dome, not at home, but in a dome.
Hey, plus
you ask everybody down here, though, they love Anthony Richardson. It's like, why? Like,
I can't hear you, Mike. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I don't down here in Indy, they think they just love him. They love Richardson for some reason.
So one of the interesting things about that kind of sort of thing really is, so if you actually have an offense like Detroit has with their potent, okay, with their relatively potent offense, you really with the running game and the passing game and stuff like that. If you were the Detroit, if you were in Indianapolis, how would you? I mean, would you blitz? You're going to go with a cover 2, cover 5, cover 10, cover 12. How are you going to stop that offense?
I mean, think about this. It's like the Houston Texans, that game where they actually had a very great defensive scheme against the Lions. I mean, to frustrate Goff in the 5 picks, that was amazing. But they still won. Detroit still won. That's the thing with this team. You could frustrate the hell out of Goff in the offense, but Detroit's going to find a way still to win. And there isn't a formula that actually says this is how you beat the Lions, because there just isn't a way right now. They figure it out. They find a way. It's, they are the grittiest team. I mean, when their head coach is the one that sets the culture in that. And when the way he is, they play like him. They play for him. It's amazing. That's why I just don't think there's just no blueprint on the Detroit Lions and how to beat them. You just have to do 0 mistakes, try to frustrate Goff, try to slow down the offense, but you have to be opportunistic on your offensive side of the ball to take advantage. Probably, if there is a weak link that the Lions have, it's probably their secondary still just a little bit. If they can get the run game going in Indianapolis to give some opportunity for some decent passes, and if Richardson's accurate, you may have a shot. But the thing is, you have to slow them down somewhere. You have to take advantage. You got to play mistake free. And that's just the problem.
And it might just be that paradigm shift, that winning attitude kind of a thing. Nobody can beat us. Even we're going to beat ourselves faster than we're going to be able to, for them to beat us. And Anthony Richardson, I think one of his bigger knocks, I guess you can say, is the fact that his accuracy is not necessarily where it could be. He's going to be able to hit you maybe 7 times out of 10, 8 times out of 10. It's just those 2 times are going to be critical, and they're going to be so incredibly egregious in that particular moment. Let's say it's 3rd and 10. You need those 10 yards.
Right.
If he throws underneath, I think decision making might be a little bit in question as well. But quarterback wise, like I said, when he's on, he's definitely on. He's a fast, nimble quarterback for his size who can throw the ball, strong arm, which also sometimes gets him into trouble.
Right.
So, do I see Indianapolis? Yeah, and it could be a close game. It very well could be a close game. I just don't necessarily see it being a close game. I have a feeling Detroit's going to actually end up winning by at least a touchdown or 2.
Yeah, I got them winning probably like 30-17. Right in that general area.
But just actually before we shift over to probably the East, I don't know if you noticed that your former quarterback, I guess his potential future, is actually set in stone now with the Jets.
Yeah, I actually read something this morning out of New York that there's quite the possibility that they may just straight up release him in the next couple of weeks, and just suck it up and say we made a mistake. And Woody Johnson, he's already fired the head coach. He's fired the GM. It would not surprise me in the least that they just simply flat out wash their hands from Aaron and say, go take the rest of the year off and go somewhere else.
You do have precedent because fellow in New York, I know one of Stout's favorite teams, the Giants, actually just
we're going to discuss that a little bit later.
Demoted. I mean, it was just insane the way that they treated that guy. And I understand that, but here's the thing. It's a tough place to play. And it's actually one of those things where, in general, so Jets, Giants, it's a tough place to play. You're going to have those naysayers and those Raspberry Kings and all this other stuff, but you also have the idea that, really, if you look at his numbers, they're down. That's fine. But they're still relatively Rodgers-esque. You still had more touchdowns than interceptions. Yeah, I mean, really, who's to blame for that? But
well, here's the thing. That Ian Rappaport reported this morning that it sounds like Rodgers has been playing with injury, and especially a significant hamstring injury since the September 29th game. And he keeps telling him, I don't want scans. I'm playing. And, he was like that in Green Bay. He did not want to come off the field. You would literally have to completely break him to get him off the field. I get it. Tough man mentality. But when you're over the age of 40, you're coming off an Achilles injury, and then you're dealing with, they're saying with the hamstring, he's got a knee and an ankle problem as well, but he's still out there. This is what happens when you let a player call the shots. And I think now you're starting to see the domino effect of allowing said player to call the shots. You got the head coach fired, you got the GM fired. And in my personal opinion, if the reports are coming out of New York and hot and heavy like that, I think he's getting released in the next couple of weeks.
Do you think Devontae Adams is okay? You think Devontae Adams is actually having second thoughts about coming to New York?
Oh yeah, he has to. I mean, this, like, again, he just followed Aaron wherever the hell he wanted to go. And I understand he was frustrated when his college buddy got let go from the Raiders. And I'm sure that played a lot into his decision, and he wanted to go somewhere where he had a quarterback that knew him and they had gelled. But if you look at their togetherness this year, and obviously you can blame Aaron's injury, it doesn't look right. It doesn't look like the old Adams, Rodgers connection. And it's sad to see. Do I think if the inevitable happens of Rodgers getting released and, Jets have another massive failure again, do I think there's a fire sale coming? I do. I think the Jets are going to start trading away every piece that they can, and just, since they're going to be getting the new GM, they don't have the quarterback. They're just going to blow it up again, suck for another 5 more years. And I mean, that's Jets football. Am I wrong?
Well, if you want to segue into the East, I think if anything, Woody Johnson should probably become the general manager, just like they do in Dallas.
Yeah, that'd be a good idea. I mean, yeah, we'll just switch it over to the East. They had enough of the Jets talk already, and Aaron Rodgers.
I didn't bring it up.
I was like, how did you guys get
I
there?
didn't bring it up. That's what happens. That's what happens when you let the Bear fan derail the show.
What's crazy is I lost service here for a second, and I come back, and we're talking AFC football. I don't know how the heck that happened, but luckily I'm back to save the show. So,
don't worry, we're gonna take over the NFC East, and I'm gonna find a way to derail it. So here we go. So we'll start off. We got a couple games this week. We got we'll start off with the Eagles game versus the Rams. I don't know what's going on with the Rams, but they look good one week, and then the next week they don't look good. The Eagles are on the uptick right now. The one big injury that I do see for the Eagles is Devontae Smith is out this week with a hamstring injury, which kind of hurts me in other places, fantasy football. And then I know Mike loves fantasy football, but anyways, then their fourth string receiver was a participant in practice this week, which would take Devontae's spot, is questionable with a shoulder injury. So the Rams are on an uptick. I think Devontae Smith hurt them being out? Maybe a little, but he was out. He's been hurt a lot this year, and they've won games without him. So,
but with Philly, the issue with Philly is the fact that you have to be able to stop their offense.
Yeah,
I mean, if they control time of possession, if they control field position, you're not going to beat Philadelphia. If you got Saquon Barkley running rampant on your defense, if you give Jalen Hurts time to pick apart your secondary, that offense is going to roll. And
yeah, I mean,
I don't see how you can
the biggest thing is stopping Barkley, because whatever he'll do, he'll jump over you backwards. I mean, even if you do try to stop him. So, I mean, the Rams defense running wise this year has been okay. So I think today is going to be a lot of Barkley more than they usually do.
Well, you got two great defensive linemen on that, two great young defensive linemen on that Rams defensive line, and Brendan Fisk and Jared Verse. If Verse can actually do some damage off the edge and you force Barkley into Fisk or someone in the interior of that defensive line, you might be able to slow down the Philadelphia Eagles offense.
Yeah. And then basically with the Rams injury report looking here, it looks like Rob Havenstein is doubtful with the ankle injury, which is their starting tackle. And then their other tackle is out with an ankle injury. And then, it might be pass happy this week because Charles Woods is out for their corner is out with an ankle injury, which there must be ankle problems going on in LA for some reason, because all three of them are all basically hurt with ankle injuries. So I know it's kind of interesting to read that, it's all the same injury. So we might see a pass happy game today with Woods being out, because he was doing pretty good this year, I believe, in my opinion. But
right on.
The Eagles are in first place in the NFC East. They win this one. They keep their game lead, because the next game, Washington's going to win the next game because they are at home versus the sky is falling in Dallas, literally.
Well, it's good that they're not playing in Dallas. You guys have some time to actually do some construction on that retractable roof.
Does Dallas have to bring their team bench too, like they did that one time?
To Washington.
Yeah,
they probably will. I don't know how cold it's going to be, so probably not, because that's why they brought it, because it was heated. So, we don't have to worry about curtain gate this week, and this week, maybe next week.
Dallas is going to do the most Dallas thing this week and win today, and keep themselves from getting a good draft pick.
I don't see that happening, but you're more optimistic than I am. So that was the word of day calendar Andy gave me last year for Christmas. I just started opening them up now. So, but injury report for Dallas. The safety Marquez Bell is out. Brandon Cooks, who hasn't really done much, his knee, he's questionable. Trayvon Diggs is questionable with the knee, and Jake Ferguson, our tight end, who Cooper Rush loves to go to, is out with a concussion. So it's going to be interesting, this game. And then basically for the Commanders, basically like all year, they've been pretty healthy. They got one questionable, and it's their linebacker, Nick Bellor. Marshawn Lattimore's out, but he's been out for a little while now.
He hasn't played it down in Washington, has he? So I mean, that's not going to hurt them too badly.
No, but I mean, he got hurt 2 weeks, before the trade from the Saints. So I mean, and their kicker is questionable too, but it looks like he's going to play.
Right on.
I don't think the kicker is going to be too much of a big deal today.
So, what sucks for Dallas is you're going up against your former coach, so he knows your offense better than probably your backup quarterback now, who's playing in said offense. What are you? what is Dallas' strengths coming into this game? What can they build on here? I don't know if they have anything that they can say, this is what we're doing well this year. This is what we're going to do going forward. Your defense is in shambles. Your offense is I don't know what you're doing offensively. You have Ezekiel Elliott. He's nothing. You have what's his name? Rico, who's not doing anything. Your wide receiver that's getting paid millions and millions of dollars is doing nothing. And your quarterback, who you paid all that money to, is injured.
Yep.
What can you hang your hat on right now?
And then, they're looking at the offensive line. But, I mean, I always go to the offensive line with everything anyways. With Zach Martin being hurt, that kind of, we got the 2 draft picks that we picked up this year. And they're looking – I believe they're doing really well compared to what everybody believed they were doing, which is a bright side for Dallas. If I got to choose a bright side, that's it right now. Is those, being around Zach Martin, and hearing the stuff that I hear, and being around Zach Martin in the, the rooms with film and everything else, he's helping out those young guys, which is great. And he's a real good motivator helping that offensive line. As they don't look as good as they used to in the past, but that's the only bright side that I could see coming out of Dallas is that offensive line and those 2 rookie, the guard and tackle that we have. Because the defensive line is horrendous. The linebackers are nowhere to be found. Our corners are just beat up all this year because they're constantly making tackles. Or trying to. So, they don't – Bland hasn't really played at all. And then you got Diggs playing when he's hurt. If those 2 are healthy and we have a good linebacking core, it has showed that they could – we start ball hawking the ball a lot more. And that's what's hurting us is that our linebacking core and defensive line. And as much as everybody talked about how good those 2 were, they were good because they had a front 7 that was really good, or at least decent enough to stop the run, and all they had to worry about was the pass. And
your front 7's always your front 7 always makes your secondary look better. And when your front 7 struggles, your secondary struggles. It goes hand in hand, though. The better your secondary is, the better your front 7 looks. But right now in Dallas, it's. Are you guys in full blown rebuild now? I mean, is that where you have to go? You don't have the money to pay Parsons. You've already given the money to Prescott. You've given the money to CeeDee Lamb. What's next? What's the next step going forward if you're Dallas?
Well, and that's I'm in the chat groups and stuff, and everybody's wanting to blow it up. And the thing is, it's not going to get blown up. It's been blown up, I think, a whopping 3 times since Jerry's owned the team since 88, I believe it was 87, 88, or 89, somewhere right in that area. He's owned the team. He's only blown it up 3 times. I mean, he's done stupid stuff. I mean, but he hasn't really blown it up. And he's not going to do that. It's not going to happen. It needs to happen, but it's not.
So I mean,
they're just going to stick with what they got, and Jerry's going to say we're all in like he always does, and then do nothing.
Let me ask you this: before we go away from the Dallas debacle, whatever you want to call it, is Parsons with the team going forward next year?
I don't know. I don't know how they're going to pay him. I mean, he wants to be there. I mean, he's got his own little podcast now, we talked about last week and the week before. All indications are saying he wants to stay there. But I don't know how. What do? You start getting rid of players and then finding, unrestricted free agents to be able to pay 3 people, 1 on defense and 2 on offense. I mean, that's not a good way to go with things. I mean, we still have a lot from previous drafts still on rookie contracts. So basically it's 2026 and 2027 is going to be even worse if people look down the road with the rookie
Yeah.
contracts we have with players. I mean, that's going to be even worse than it will be next year. But I like Micah Parsons. I really do. I think he's having an off year, and everybody's like, "Where is he at?" And it's like the dude has one off year, and you guys all want to, you know.
I'm just asking because I don't know where the money's coming from. Money positions in the NFL are what? Left tackle?
Yeah.
Well, it's actually quarterback, left tackle, edge rush, secondary.
Yep.
I mean, where's your money tied up? I mean, I don't understand where it's going to come from. But neither here nor there. Sky is falling, sky is falling, sky is falling.
Literally. And
What's
we'll transition over to the NFC South with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers going to New Jersey. Yeah, that's where they play at, to the New York Giants. And
yes, sir.
we talked about this a little bit before the show. And Andy kind of brought it up. The Giants are starting to look like they want to outdo the Browns. And it started with them getting rid of Barkley, going all in on Daniel Jones. Then they decide this week they're going to sit Daniel Jones and then give the starting job, not to the backup quarterback, Drew Lock. They're going to give it to the guy that puts fans in the stands. What is it? Danny DeVito's cousin, Vinny.
Tommy Cutlets, baby.
My cousin Vinny. If anybody's watching old enough for that, giving him the starting spot, and just the look when they interviewed Drew Lock, like he had no clue how this happened. That tells you all you need. That tells you all you need to know about what this organization is doing. And then, 3 days after they decide, hey, we're gonna sit you, and you're gonna be the fourth string quarterback, he goes, I want to release, and they're gonna release Daniel Jones. After you chose him over Barkley, and then paid him, a couple years ago, paid him all that money. The Giants are starting to look like they're going to outdo the Browns. So I think Tampa Bay's got to lock in for the win this week. So
I don't know. I honestly don't know. But the Bucs have to win this week. The playoffs start now for Bucs. If you're a Bucs fan, the playoffs start today, and they win and you're out is essentially where we're at right now in Tampa Bay. Granted, they can lose a game and still make the playoffs, but you've got to have that mentality going forward. You need to win every single week till the end of the season. Excuse me. The Bucs are 5.5-point favorites going into today's game, but they're going into a quarterback that they don't have a lot of film on. Nobody's ruled out in New York. Thibodeau's back today. He's questionable, but is expected to play. Malik Neighbors is a game-time decision. The Bucs on the other hand.
I think, I don't interrupt you, but I think that'll be a big one if Malik Neighbors plays at all, and if he's not at full strength.
It's going to be huge.
Yeah. So
he's expected to play.
Yeah. So you've got basically a healthy New York Giants team coming into today's game. You're going against the Bucs. The Bucs are going to be more than likely without Tristan Wirfs as their all-world offensive tackle. So you're going to see Justin School going up against the likes of Thibodeau. And there was a certain edge rusher that gave School fits early in the season. I think he gave up 5 sacks to one individual in one game. I'm not saying Thibodeau has the ability to do that today because School once again has grown more into this offense, but that's an issue for Bucs. So you're gonna look in an edge rusher of that caliber going against your second team offensive lineman, and that can be a big issue for Tampa Bay today. They do get Jamel Dean back, finally back in the rotation, looking to play today after coming off of IR. You also have Zion McCollum, who actually didn't practice until Friday with a hamstring injury, but is a full participation on Friday and is expected to start today. So he will probably see most of the Malik Neighbors today, unless, like I said, Neighbors ends up not playing. They did bring back Super Bowl champion Mike Edwards. Edwards is going to see some playing time today. I don't see him making as big an impact as everyone's anticipating, just because I don't think the safeties are the issue for Tampa Bay. It's the linebacking core. Unfortunately, you have a man like Levante David stuck in that group who's doing great this season against the run, and he's doing well playing sideline to sideline, but that middle zone is wide open. It don't matter who they have there. It's wide open, and tight ends pick this defense apart. Bucky Irving needs a huge game today for Tampa Bay. I think you need to incorporate him into the ground game. I think you need to see about 50% of the rushing attack for this game to go off for Tampa Bay than the way they needed to. You're going to need to see, 30, 40 or 30 to 25 to 30 rushes for your Tampa Bay. And I think, like I said, Bucky Irving needs at least 50% of those. Rashad White will get the start. Rashad White is better in pass protection. Another person you don't see a lot of is Sean Tucker. Where's he been? NFC Player of the Week, 4 weeks ago? And he hasn't touched the ball since. He's had like 3 carries. You got to put your playmakers in the game. There's a certain playmaker coming back today, too.
Mike Evans.
Mike Evans is back.
What I was going to ask you a question about. So with in bringing up, Colton's question here, or at least his statement here, that the Buccaneers are going to win 31-23, how do you see him getting 31 points? How do you see them scoring 30 points?
Well, the Bucs offense scores. The Bucs offense, you put them on a top 15 defense in the league, they win 95% of their games. This offense scores. They move the ball well down the field. They're not making the turnovers that you've seen in the past from Bucs offenses. In fact, they're scoring more points than when they had Tom Brady. So you're looking at a Bucs offense that can put 30, 35 points on the board a game. The problem is this Bucs defense is giving up 30, 38 points a game, and you're going to lose those games if you're giving up that many points. You're going against the offense that has a quarterback right now that doesn't do well with pressure. I think Todd Bowles needs to dial up the game plan he had for Jalen Hurts, to where you're coming after the quarterback. You're blitzing 75, 80% of the time. You're putting your defense in man coverage and limiting in that zone, and you get after it. And you make Tommy DeVito beat you. And I don't think that happens today if you're Tampa Bay.
Yeah, I don't see it happening either.
No, that was New York being, their offense being as what it is, especially with Tommy DeVito, which is interesting because there are certain things he does well, but I just don't think he necessarily has the tools to be able to do that. His arm is probably right around, I would say, above average, right around the average, above average. His decision making is good, but his athleticism, I think, is kind of what belies a little. He's surprisingly athletic. However, I don't think he's like a Jalen Hurts or even take like Dak. Somebody like that, for example, who can escape because he's a little bit bigger guy and a little bit surprisingly fast. I don't think DeVito has that type of escapability or play set. So offensively, I can't see the Giants getting more than maybe a touchdown, a couple of field goals.
I'm not as confident as you. Go ahead, Brian.
I was looking at a couple of things while you're discussing everything, and it obviously clearly a lot of good points made. Obviously with Tampa being a warmer weather team, right? You're going on the road to New Jersey. So I always like to look and see, will weather be a factor in this? Kickoff temperature, 52 degrees, mostly cloudy. The only thing that I see that could be a problem, and is wind gusts up to 34 miles per hour. And I know in that stadium, it swirls in there. If it comes down to a kicking competition, it could get interesting.
This is the way I look at this game unfolding. And I might be wrong, but looking at it objectively, if Tampa Bay can get up early, if they score on their first drive, make a defensive stand, and score again on their second drive, I do not think New York's offense is built to come back from 14 points down. You get up 2 scores this game, the game's over. I really think if you can keep control of the ball offensively, not turn the ball over, limit mistakes, you win this game. If you rush the ball 25 to 30 times this game and you're successful doing so, you win this game. Key player for me to watch today is going to be Sterling Shepard. going back home to New York, he's going to be forced the ball. You're going to see them trying to incorporate him into the game because you got a man at Mike Evans who's going to draw a lot of double coverage. He's going to draw a lot of that pressure off of the 2 and 3 receiver. My question is, does Mike Evans get 1,000 yards this season? Needs 96 yards or 95 yards a game to do so. Does this change the offensive game? Or are they going to force Mike Evans the ball? I mean, does Baker Mayfield?
Because we all know it's about individual stats and not team success.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, knowing you have a player that is a possibility to break records. As an offensive coordinator, you want to put your player in that position. That's how you get other players to come to your organization. Is you take care of the people that take care of you. I don't want them to force Mike Evans the ball. I think Mike Evans can get 100, 106 yards today. He might not even score a touchdown, but I really think you're going to see Sterling Shepard eat today because they're going to feed him. You're going to see Sterling Shepard in a tunnel screen. You're going to see Sterling Shepard on quick slants, trying to soften that defense. You're not going to see that many long balls today because, like Brian said, with the wind swirling in that stadium, it limits the ability for that ball to cut through the air. 25, 30 times on the ground, control the clock, control field position, get up 2 scores. This game's over. I got the Bucs winning by 10 at least.
The biggest thing that I'm taking away from this, everything that's going on with the Giants, you're going to see how well they play, how that locker room was when Daniel Jones was the quarterback to where it is now. So we're going to find out if the players had faith in Daniel Jones or they didn't want him there. I think you'll see that in this game today. But again, I don't think it's enough to beat the Bucs. So, but that's something to look out for to see where everybody kind of stands with that. So,
right on. We do have another game in the South today. Not really. I mean, the Chiefs are going to Carolina. I mean, seriously. Chiefs are going to Carolina. Pacheco's out. Omenuhu is out, the defensive end for the Chiefs. The Panthers are pretty much healthy. They have one player that's listed as doubtful at the linebacker in Bano. I don't see this game going any other way than the Swifties having their day, the Chiefs having their field day, walking out of that stadium with a 21-point win. I mean, I don't see it being close. I don't see it being anything that's even highlighted if you're the Carolina Panthers. You just want to make it out of that game healthy.
Let me ask you this question with the Carolina Panthers, because I have my answer for this. Who out of all that team, who do you think is the bright spot? What one player is like the bright spot of that team? And I know it's hard to say, but I mean, mine is Chubbard, the running back. It seems like he constantly just keeps going, no matter what happens.
Yeah, if you have him in fantasy, he's not a bad person to have because that offense can't do anything else.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm looking at. Everything else is what I'm saying. Like, I don't know, I'm talking now about fantasy, but looking at bright spots, like he seems to be the only bright spot they have is giving him the ball.
Well, yeah. Plus, you have your wide receiver at Adam Thielen who can't stay healthy this season. He was supposed to be your leader of that wide receiver room, and he just can't get on the field.
Yep.
Go ahead, Brian.
Think about. Okay, so you asked that question. Yeah, Hubbard probably is the bright spot, but remember, their prized draft pick Jonathan Brooks is making his debut today, and the coach said he's definitely playing. He's definitely going to be taking snaps away from Hubbard.
Yeah,
and that could, like I said, you want to talk about a bright spot or a player that you could just say, wait to see, him play and stuff like that. It could be this Brooks, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm. Well, hey, we're running heavy on time right now. We got one more game I want to dive into real quick, get our pick 6 in, get Brian's bets in, and then get out of here. We have Arizona going to Seattle. How do you see this game shaking out? There's a couple. Go ahead, Mike.
I think Seattle takes this game. I was going to make it real brief. Seattle wins this game. They're at Seattle. It's hard to win up there regardless. I think Seattle takes this game. With them starting to get everybody coming back healthier. You've seen it last week. I think that's the key for them is they got everybody healthy, and here they go. I think Seattle ends up taking the division.
Seattle's getting healthy. They also are coming off a big momentum win, like you stated. But you're going to be looking at their receivers going against Arizona's secondary. Arizona's secondary is top 5 in the league. They've only allowed 5 passing touchdowns this season. Metcalf needs to have a game today, right? I mean, he hasn't had any coming out party yet this season. I think this is where it's got to come in. I think Seattle wins, but I just don't know who it's on the back of. So
I think they need to run the ball and give it to Walker as much as possible. Is what I think. This week and every other week.
Brian, Andy, you guys got thoughts on this game?
Nope.
I think it's going to be close. This is going to be one of those 3-point victories. It could go either way, in my opinion. But I think Seattle's the more desperate team at this point. And coming off that big win, I think you're at home. Yeah, I think Seattle's one that takes it.
You guys ready for pick 6?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Cut it short, Mike, just for you. Cut it short.
Cut it all.
We had a blackjack this week. One of our crew here today had a blackjack. Does anybody have any idea whose it was? I'm not sure who did it, but somebody in the crew hit blackjack. Oh, wait, it was me. There it is. It was me. That's 3 times this season. But anyway.
Yep. Can I do it again?
I guess I get to.
Who cares?
I guess I get to lead it off since I won. I got the Vikings at 6, Kansas City at 5, Detroit at 4, Tampa Bay at 3, Washington at 2, and my number 1 is already lost. Pittsburgh lost at 1. So, Brian, you're next.
Wah, wah. All right, pick 6. I got my 6 is Detroit, 5 Denver, 4 Kansas City, 3 Houston, 2 Miami, and 1 Green Bay.
Andy, wake up.
We got the Commanders, of course, are going to be taking it. The refs, of course, I mean, there's not really even going to be a thing there. Unfortunately, Carolina is not necessarily the team that, well, they're not even good as Dallas. Can you believe that? Lions, Texans, Dolphins, of course, Bears by 2.5 touchdowns.
Stop.
At least.
All right. I got the Chiefs, the Vikings, the Lions,
Steelers. No,
the Texans, Seattle, and Dallas. The sky is falling.
Oh, you're such a liar.
Oh, yeah.
Stop had the Steelers at 4, and they messed the bet.
That message is deleted. There's no proof of that. This is recorded, so those are my picks.
Word.
Ryan, give us your picks, sir.
All right. I'm going with and taking the Lions minus the 6.5 over Indy. I'm taking wait for it, Stout. The Dallas Cowboys plus the 10 against the Redskins. And I said
I might take that one. I might take that one.
But Commanders. Take the under 39.5 in the Minnesota versus Chicago game. Don't think there's going to be a lot of scoring. And you want to take the under 41 in Denver versus the Raiders.
Copy that. Gentlemen, with 53 seconds left, do we have closing? Can't do it. Closing thoughts.
Dang it. You got it 1 week out of like how many years? So
dude, it's killing me.
Mike's still working on it. He'll eventually get it down. But my closing thoughts is the sky is literally falling.
You are not lying. Chicken Little. Brian, Andy? All right. Once again, I'd like to thank our wives and families for allowing us to be an idiot 1 hour every week. It does take a lot of more time during the week to put this show together, so I appreciate you watching. Please like, follow, and subscribe. See you next week. hey again. Give Bucky the ball.